To everyone else, this is a task. But to you, this is opportunity.
Switch to Boost Mobile and get the Coach Prime Moto G5G for $29.99 at boostmobile.com. The Boost Mobile network, together with our roaming partners, covers 99% of the U.S. population. Moto G5G for $29.99 when you switch with a new Unlimited Plus or Unlimited Premium plan activation. Online only. Taxes extra. All prices, fees, features, functionality, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit boostmobile.com for details.
Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hello, I'm Josh Hallam. Welcome back to another Just Films and That New Release review. Hope you're well and thank you very much for listening. Whilst I've got your attention, if you could head on over to whatever app or website or whatever you're listening to this on, give us a 5-star rating or review. It'd be massively appreciated. This time around, I'm going to be talking about Hellboy, the Crooked Man, which is the latest iteration of Mike Mignola's comic book character, who you've seen before, played by Ron Perlman, and of course, last came to our notice in 2019, played by David Harbour, which we covered this week. So do go back and give it a listen if you're after more Hellboy content. I'll try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but I'll touch on things that are in the promo material and trailers and stuff like that. So if you don't want to know anything at all, then do give this a listen after you've seen it, if you can find a screening. In terms of the plot, it's set in 1959, and we've got a much younger Hellboy here, played by Jack Kesey. Hellboy and his colleague, they find themselves stranded in an area of the Appalachian Mountains in America, and those mountains appear to be haunted by a coven of witches overseen by a mysterious figure called the Crooked Man. So ever the do-gooders, they go back and try to help the local people and rid the area of evil, which of course proves a bit more difficult than expected. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a film, would it? Anyway, let's get stuck in. So I'll start by saying, look, this is a very different take on the character from the one we've seen before. I've not read the comics, but I gather this is a much more faithful adaptation to the source material, as the plot itself and a lot of the way the film looks is lifted straight from the comic. So because of that, it's a little bit more of a self-contained story, which I didn't mind because it gave everything a little bit more of a refreshing lift. Everything, doesn't have to be the end of the world, and this is not. It's much more self-contained, it's much more grounded. There's no big CGI monster fight or anything like that. Not only that, but this is pretty much a full-blown horror film, which I enjoyed again because they make good use of those horror genre tropes to give you a bit of a different viewing experience from the one you might have been expecting, or from other comic book films as well. It's a much lower budget than the adaptation. Based on what I've seen, I think it's about 20 million quid, which, I wouldn't sniff at 20 million quid, but it's not a lot for a superhero film. So I thought they did a good job with what they had for the most part in terms of how it looks. I know a lot hanging over this film is this online narrative saying that it looks like a fan film. That did stay with me throughout, but not to the extent that it didn't ruin it or anything like that, so I will come back to that. And I think that the budget did inform the look and feel of the film as well, but it is very well shot. I think they get around the budget really, really well with the overall aesthetic. It's dark, it's dirty, it's grimy, which I really liked. In terms of a comparison or to something else, perhaps something like Dread came to mind, in the fact that you can really feel the dirt under the fingernails, you can really smell every cigarette and all that sort of stuff. A lot of prosthetics are used in this film, and they all look really, really great. They do cast a bit of a sort of unwanted light on some of the CGI, which isn't as good, but that shouldn't take away from how good the prosthetics looked and how different it looks as a comic book film. It's really well edited as well. I think there's a lot of short, sharp scenes with really obvious heavy cuts to black, and it made it feel like you were closing chapters and turning pages on a book, and made the whole film feel really well paced, I thought, as well. The cast are good in this as well. We'll come back to Hellboy in a minute, but Adeline Rudolph and Jefferson White are sort of Hellboy's colleagues, or the people who are helping him in this, and they bring a real heart and likability to their characters as well. I really enjoyed Martin Bassendale. He plays the Crooked Man. I thought he was wonderfully creepy with this. What he's able to do with his body and his voice are pretty mind-blowing. I think he's cut from the same cloth as Doug Jones, who obviously also made an impact in the Hellboy films. And I think that's probably about a bigger compliment as I can pay to Martin Bassendale. Back to Hellboy himself, I think Jack Kesey does a good job. He's a little bit limited by the characterization of Hellboy, which I'll come back to in the dislikes, but he does get the essence of the character right. Really good with the physicality as well. When he gets a chance to do something that's a little bit different to Ron Perlman or David Harbour, in that this is a much younger and leaner Hellboy who's still trying to find himself and what he's about. So he gives Hellboy a few little interesting quirks here and there, like the fact that he's constantly smoking like he is in some of the other ones, but not only that, he eats his cigarette when he's done, and little quirks like that I quite enjoyed. He'd obviously done a little bit of work around how to make his characterization a little bit different. Something else as well, just to finish on the lights, something else I enjoyed is I'd not seen, I think, apart from the odd credit here and there, I'd not seen any of the cast in anything before, which meant that the whole film came without baggage, so I lost myself in the characters a little bit more, instead of thinking about the celebrity that comes alongside it and what else they've been in and stuff like that. So I would be interested to see how something like this affects superhero films or films in general moving forward, because the fact that there's no famous people in it, that I'd heard of anyway, didn't take anything away from it for me. In terms of the dislikes, we'll come on to them now. Look, it is quite flawed in places, and I wonder if that comes down from the whole execution of this being low budget and choosing to do it more as a horror. While some of the horror I did enjoy, what I mean by in terms of the execution of it is that it had something that I struggle with in a lot of horror films, which is that it is conceptually strong, but narratively weak. So in order to keep us guessing as an audience, they don't give you as much exposition as you need, and sometimes they choose to go down the route of just scaring you or doing jump scares instead. And the problem with that is that's all well and good for lower budget horror films, but this is a Hellboy film. And at times it felt like they've forgone the budget. Maybe they sort of negotiate to have less of the budget in order to make more of what they wanted. But that comes back to what I said before, which is because of the horror, Hellboy lacks a little bit of characterization in this. Beyond just being the hero, ultimately, he's just the hero of the film. So it felt like a horror film with the character of Hellboy in it. And that character, that lead character, could have been something else, could have been anyone else. It didn't have to be Hellboy. Apart from some links to his past, it's fairly generic. On top of that, they made a lot of the horror very repetitive. So it's a lot of dark, grimy, claustrophobic scenes, and then something goes bleh, at the camera, and I found that a little bit tiresome. The only thing I'd say to finish is that the fan film thing, it does loom over it somewhat. I think that's probably because of the lower budget. Apart from there is some dodgy CGI. I don't really mind the lower budget sort of side of things, because it did contribute to that overall dirty aesthetic of the film. Listen, overall, there are some issues. It is my least favourite adaptation of the character, and it won't be for everyone. But they definitely took a big swing in terms of doing something different, and I found that quite refreshing in places. And I think there was enough to like here that I'd be interested if the same team made another one. Having said that, I'll be honest, it was not easy to find a screening. There were only 5 people in the screening, so I think unfortunately this may well get lost in time to some extent. Having said that, on the other side of that coin, based on the fact that it's some strong horror stuff in there, I would not be surprised to see this pick up a bit of a cult following in years to come. As ever, this is just my opinion, so if you're interested and you can find it, get out there, give it a watch, and make up your own mind. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.
To everyone else, this is a task. But to you, this is opportunity.
Switch to Boost Mobile and get the Coach Prime Moto G5G for $29.99 at boostmobile.com. The Boost Mobile network, together with our roaming partners, covers 99% of the U.S. population. Moto G5G for $29.99 when you switch with a new Unlimited Plus or Unlimited Premium plan activation. Online only. Taxes extra. All prices, fees, features, functionality, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit boostmobile.com for details.
Expand the way you work and think with Claude by Anthropic. Whether brainstorming solo or working with a team, Claude is AI built for you. It's perfect for analyzing images and graphs, generating code, processing multiple languages, and solving complex problems. Plus, Claude is incredibly secure, trustworthy, and reliable, so you can focus on what matters. Curious? Visit Claude.ai and see how Claude can elevate your work.
Hey there, it's Farnoosh Torabi, host of the So Money podcast. Imagine having a super smart and reliable virtual friend to help you guide your finances. Well, besides me. Enter Claude by Anthropic. With the power of AI, Claude can help streamline your financial tasks. From analyzing data and charts to generating code for investment models or budget trackers, Claude's advanced reasoning helps you tackle the toughest financial challenges. Take control of your financial future with the right tools. Visit Claude.ai today and start saving time and money.